Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm Tony, your host, and today we are going to have an episode that is called our Random Strangeness episodes. This is where we take 4 or 5 topics randomly, and we just talk about those things, share that information with you, and have a little fun. Now, today I have one of my co-hosts with me. He's a fellow podcaster and also a regular voice on High Strangeness, my son, and his own podcast he has, Anthony Hernandez.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah. So how's it going? Good?
It's good, yeah. I'm excited to talk about some of these topics today. I think, as you've always highlighted, that there's a lot of weird little things that happen. I mean, there's the big things, UFOs, abductions, all that stuff. And then there's all these kind of weird things that are happening, these small things that are honestly kind of funny in my opinion. And so this is something that maybe a lot of people don't put a lot of attention into, and so I'm excited to talk about some of these smaller, strange things.
Yeah, and sometimes these little things help us appreciate what's around us a little bit. Sometimes they're scary. Sometimes they wake us up and help us to be more alert in certain situations. So I think it's fun all the way around, and so that's what we're going to do. So as we start here, I just want to begin by doing 2 things. One, I'm going to share a quick little story, personal story, that will help segue into this first topic. And then I have a question for you too. I'm going to start off with this story. When I was in my teens, I was probably 14, 15 years old, I used to go to a friend's house and work out, him and I, in his garage all the time. And we probably did that for 8 or 9 months. And I remember my friend would always tell me, hey, can you grab that black weight down on the floor there for me? And I'd say, sure. I'd grab it and give it to him. And this was, we had metal weights and we had these other colored weights. And he'd always tell me to grab the black weight. And one day I just was annoyed. It was several months into our workouts. And I just kind of looked at him and said, yo, what are you, colorblind? It's purple. Why do you keep calling it black? And he said to me, yeah, I am colorblind. And I was like, oh man. So I kind of felt bad about it because I really was like, you're an idiot. Like, what's wrong with you? Why do you keep doing this? I don't know if other people run into situations where they deal with people or friends and they think, what's wrong with them? Only to find out later that there's something real there. Now, the question I had for you, Anthony, was, I know that you have been in many plays and you've acted a bunch, you've been in some commercials. Have you ever had to learn a different accent or did you ever have to change your voice for any of these roles?
Yeah, in the theater world, I've done some shows that were European accents, which obviously I do not have, or Russian or German or things like that. So I'd like to say that I was okay at them, but I didn't have any formal training. It was just kind of like, hey, we're doing this show and it's supposed to take place in Europe, so you need to figure out how to do a British accent. I was like, oh, okay. And so that's kind of how, my experience with that.
Did you find it would take you a bit to learn that, or did you pick it up pretty quick?
Some of them I still can't get to this day, and others I would just listen to performers or people I that are in the media and stuff. So and then I would just kind of, as I'm going about my day, try to speak in that dialect. So for an example, there's someone in our community, and that's very well known actually around the world, but he's local here in the community, and he has an Austrian accent. And so I was repeating some of the things I've heard him say as he's gotten up and spoken, but I was listening. I'd listen to him, and then I would listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger has a much heavier, thicker accent, but I would try to mimic this leader that is in my life, but I would try to overdo it, so I would try to sound like Arnold. And when I would kind of hit that middle sweet spot, I actually started sounding Austrian. And so like that. So like I would just walk around and, if I was ordering a Big Mac, I'd go up to the counter, say, I want a Big Mac and fries and a drink. And as I'm sitting there waiting for my burger, I'd be like, I want a Big Mac and fries and a drink. And I would just be sitting there. I probably got some weird looks because I would just be kind of talking to myself. And anyway, so that's what I did. I just listen and I'd repeat and try to say funny things. But it's hard. There's only a couple that I could really get down. And then there's others that I cannot get down. Even some Italian language is hard, like things that have kind of like in certain Spanish dialects where it's like rolling R's and stuff, just things I hadn't grown up trying or even doing. So some of it's very difficult.
Yeah. Well, this leads us into our first topic. I want to ask you, what would you do if you woke up one morning and your wife, she woke up as well, you were sitting down to have breakfast on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and she started talking with a very strong accent. And you looked at her and said, honey, what are you doing? And she really was like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I would.
And she did it all day. What would you think?
Yeah, that would be strange because my wife doesn't do anything like that. So I would be like, I don't know what I would think, honestly. I would be like, that's kind of funny. Like, how'd you learn how to do that? Just because my wife doesn't do anything like that, really.
Right.
So that would be...
very odd.
Yeah, very odd.
Well, there is a condition actually called Foreign Accent Syndrome, FAS. And when I first heard of this, I thought to myself, there's no way, right? But it's true. And it's actually, it's a disease that, if you look here, it's a speech disorder that causes sudden change to your speech, well, obviously. And so the native speaker is perceived to speak a whole different language, some kind of a foreign accent. And it's caused from damage in the brain, in these areas shown on the picture right here. And it's real. And the individual does, unlike the example I gave you where your wife didn't know, they do know. They do understand it, and they're going, what am I doing? And I can't really change it. They may not recognize it as potently as their voice sounds to other people, but they do recognize it. And it's pretty interesting because as I was looking into this condition, I found really interesting situations. There was a British woman. Well, first of all, when we say brain injury, we're thinking accident, probably. Car accident, fall, get hit in the head with something. But that's not really the case always. Let me give you a few examples. There was a woman, a British woman, who had a severe migraine. And then after her migraine, when she got up from taking a nap, she had a Chinese accent. There was an Australian woman who started a new epilepsy medicine, medicine. And she came out from a sleep or something. She woke up and she was speaking with a European accent. And there's even examples of somebody who right after they got their tonsils removed, and another person after childbirth had a completely different accent, and people around them were like, what are you doing? Why do you have this? And it's pretty interesting.
What's interesting about it is you're going to show a video about this, and we've watched this already ahead of time. But for the listener at home, it's interesting when you watch this. It's actually it made me want to laugh at certain points, because there's things that are so drastic in the language. It's one thing to be talking at this speed and then as you're talking at this speed, all of a sudden you're talking like this, and but you're the same speed. But some of these people are like from somewhere in the U.S. and they're speaking as if they don't know English. Like if English is their second language, like they're stopping, they're going, and then they're finishing words or whatever. And I'm sitting here, and so that's the crazy part to me is I'm watching this, and I was like, wait a second. Like I get kind of pronouncing things a little bit off, or maybe you're having troubles pronouncing a letter or some vowels or different things, but to just almost sound like it's not even English isn't your first language. I mean, that's something that's pretty strange to me.
Yeah, it is. So this is about a two minute and something, and I'm going to play it.
Butter. We're shocked to hear something like that.
Sarah Colwell from Plymouth in England is a dead set Pom who now sounds like she's from Shanghai.
It wasn't until I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital she actually said, "Are you aware of the way you're speaking?" And I said, "Oh, I sound like I have a slur." And she said, "No, you sound like you can work in a Chinese restaurant." She said, "Yeah, you could work in the local China house or something."
Dindy Hastings is fourth generation Australian. She's never been to Europe, but you'd swear she was born there, such as her thick Eastern European accent. Where do you think she is from?
I'd say probably Croatia or...
Okay.
It's interesting that you perceive it that way because I'm actually Australian. Oh, okay. I'm born in Sydney and Australia all my life. Oh, wow.
Just hold on a second. I started sounding totally different when I heard my speech, and the speech process in my head was totally different. You learn to live with it, you learn to adapt, but it's not easy.
These three women share an extraordinary illness that sounds like a joke, but has left them frustrated, ashamed, and lonely.
Crash. Crashed. Okay, let's try reading.
Dr. Nick Miller from England's Newcastle University says his patients don't actually speak with foreign accents. It just sounds that way.
You wish to know all about my grandfather.
The listener hears a foreign accent, so because, for instance, you might add to everything. I want a cup of tea, please. And couple that with changes to the rhythm in your speech, it might remind, oh, that sounds Italian to me. Or you can't pronounce the word or the sound "w" anymore. So instead of water, you say water or vase, the water vase in the glass or something like that. And so they say, oh, sounds a bit German to me.
You're saying these people have a speech disorder, which happens to sound in the ear of the listener like a foreign accent.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Okay, so what did you think of that? Was that interesting?
Yeah, like I said, I watched this video and it's hard not to laugh for me. I mean, it's probably like super disruptive to these folks' life, but like I said, I mean, it's almost like you're talking like this, and all of a sudden the lady who had the Asian accent, was just so different than what her language would be, and it's hard to believe that it's true, honestly. But the thing is I don't know if you remember this. There is a young gal that lived in our neighborhood growing up, and her whole family, I mean, we knew their family well. Whole family, I think, born and raised, lived in Utah their whole life. I mean, they never went abroad, never anything like that. But their youngest daughter, who was like 9, 10, 11, 12, had a British accent.
Yeah.
Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
now.
and so, I mean, and it was perfect. And so I remember one time I was riding my bike. I'm several years older than her, but I was still riding my bike through the neighborhood, and I went to their house for something. I can't remember, or they were outside or something. And I stopped, and she was there. She was very friendly, and she was talking to me, and I was talking back to her in a British accent. And she was aware. She was like, "You sound like me." And I was like, I am, she's like, how do you sound like that? And I'm like, this is how I always sound. And, and I would, tease her a little bit, and that's fine. And she was a good sport about it. But, and I don't know if she still has that, but it was strange. It was like everyone in the family was like, hey, yo, what's up? And then here she walked in just with beautiful British accent. And I don't know if it's the same thing, but that was something that always puzzled me.
Well, right back then we would have thought, boy, she really keeps putting that act up. I wonder when she's going to stop it.
The thing is that she was
maybe that was it.
She was so young, and it was literally flawless British accent. Yeah. I never thought it was an act. I was just always like kind of flabbergasted by it. I was like what the heck? Anyway, so that could fall into this again. I don't know if her family's listening. Love them; they're great people. So this isn't meant to poke fun at her or anything, but it was just like one of those things where it was like, what? How did she do that? What was it? Something like this, subconscious, or maybe you're right. Maybe I don't think she was doing it on purpose. So I don't know. I don't know whatever happened, and I don't know if she still has it to this day or not. But
well, I would say to any people out there that are listening, throw us a comment if you know somebody who has done, who this has happened to, or you ran across somebody and you never really knew why. Be interested in hearing a little bit about it. But I think it's interesting now for everybody's the benefit of knowing a little more about this. It's important to understand that this is not a dangerous condition, which is nice. It, however, can inform people of maybe a serious condition down the road, such as tumors, lesions in the brain, dementia, MS. It could be an early sign of those things as well. So it is important that if somebody starts doing this, maybe get it checked out. But at the moment of its occurrence, it's not a big deal. Let's see if there's anything else. I guess if they do tie it to or link it to MS, there is some medications that have been prescribed to help people. But really the suggestion that comes down from medical professionals is to go see a speech therapist. That's really it. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So we've watched a little bit about it. Let's go to our second topic. Now, our second topic is going to be strange and mystical beast. And for those of you out there, some of you may believe in these things, some may not. There are a lot of people out there that really believe some of these animals and beasts exist. And so the first one we're only going to talk about one today, but let's talk about the Wyoming Jackalope. Now, Anthony, I don't know if you remember this. My middle daughter, years ago, we used to take trips across country all the time when the kids were younger. And we had a lot of fun convincing her that this thing was real and that when we were going to stop at one of the rest areas, to be careful that they didn't run and hit her on the ankles. And she really believed it.
That's funny. Well, for those who are listening, this is funny too. I laughed when I saw this because it's a rabbit with like reindeer antlers. I mean, they're not little antlers. They're like giant compared to its body, relative to its body. And so that was pretty funny too when I looked that up. It almost looks like it's Photoshopped. Well, obviously, it's not I don't know. I don't think this is a real picture. I think they're mystical, right? They're not proven, but it's just one of those funny things where I can't help but to think like someone came up with it, and then it's that mentality of like if you bring it to someone's attention, they start seeing it. They start seeing that thing, or they think they're seeing that thing, right? And so I wonder if this is legitimately an animal or was something that someone brought up at one point and people kind of just started buying into it. Like, I think I did see that. They saw a rabbit in the distance. There was a tree branch behind them, and just the silhouette made it look like this. And I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let me read just a little bit about this. It says here, oral tradition has played its part. Various historical accounts of people firmly believing that the animal is real have been given. Some say the animal is elusive and shy, hiding in pecks, and scattered in the wilderness of Wyoming and South Dakota, while others believe these are extinct already. Their specific size and color are debatable, but they say, the people that say they've seen these things, that they are about 5 pounds, is about the size, with the traditional wild rabbit's brown fur and antlers the size of a small deer. So, I mean, if you look here in the city of Douglas, Wyoming, I mean, they've got on their city webpage, Meet Jack.
Well, these are the folks that, didn't they erect a statue of a jackalope like in the middle of the town?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll show everybody that in just a second. But it is interesting. I mean, they're really playing it up. Now, I'll say this too, for all the thousands of hunters that go roaming the West, if you ever wonder that you might run across one of these, if you get one of these catching license from the township there, I guess you can actually pick one up. It's like a hunter's license. So you can either have that as a souvenir or you can use it as your license if you ever catch one. I think it's pretty interesting. Yes, we talked about Douglas, Wyoming, and you're right. There is a statue right there in the middle of town. Now, just to throw a little conspiracy into this, like I said, there's some people in Douglas who will insist that the jackalope does indeed exist. But there is an old taxidermist that lives in town that he has admitted to somebody before that he and his brother created the jackalope in 1934. So,
yeah, that's 1934. So this gentleman's probably long since gone.
He might be gone now, yeah, because he'd have to be in his 90s. Or he was a little kid at the time, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, if he was a taxidermist, I assume he put it together, maybe showed some people, and, and so the story began. And like I said, then people are seeing rabbits out in the field, and there's some branches, and they're squinting, and they're going, I think that's a jackalope.
All right. Jackalopes in Douglas, Wyoming. Be careful, folks. All right, let's move on to our next topic. This is it's going to fall under the category of a strange place. And in my opinion, it's interesting, but it's maybe even cute. So let's take a look at Alabama's Coon Dog Cemetery. Now, let me start off by saying deep in the Alabama woods at the base of the Cumberland Mountains lies a cemetery like no other. Okay, that's enough of that dramatic stuff. It's a cute little cemetery out there. It's 77 years old. Somebody named Key Underwood actually used to go hunting all the time here with his dog. And his dog was a coon hound. And that's where he buried his beloved dog. Way back 77 years ago.
Is that where the movie Pet Sematary originates from?
I don't know. I don't think so. But who knows what spawned from this here. I do know that since then, they have been burying dogs there every year since that point. And guess what? They're all coon hound dogs. That's it. Nothing else.
Interesting.
Trying to think. I thought I had a figure here of how many dogs were out there. Oh, 300. There are over 300 coon hound dogs buried here. Interesting. Cute little story.
Yeah, it is interesting.
All right.
Interesting that
Anything
it's
else you want?
probably a landmark, I guess, or I wonder if that's a tourist destination. People come out and check it out.
They might.
I'm curious.
Yeah, let us know if if you've ever been out there and seen it, or if you've run across something like this, a little bit strange, a little bit cute. All right. Let's move to our next topic. This one is strange, very unexpected, but really not very funny. So I don't want to poke any jokes at this. When we do our random strangeness, there's going to be all kinds of things from funny to interesting to cute to serious and scary sometimes. This example here, I've got two examples under this category that are serious, not very funny, but it does teach us a lesson to just be pretty alert, because sometimes if we're not, we can't control what happens. So, have you ever heard somebody say, that person was in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Yeah, of course.
These next two examples fall under that pretty well. So, let's start off here and talk about amateur baseball back in 1902. There was a young guy named Stanton Walker. He was a 20-year-old guy, and he went to a amateur ball game in Morristown, Ohio, and he went with two friends. They were sitting there in the bleachers, and a foul ball was hit. And it hit Stanton Walker, and he died. Now, you would think, oh, it must have hit him in the head. Wonder what happened there. So, it is interesting because while they're sitting out in the stands, this is actually how it all took place. They were watching the game. Stanton had his two friends, one sitting on one side, one sitting on the other, and one of them said, "Can I borrow your knife?" to the other guy on the other side of him. He says, "I want to keep track of these stats, and I need to sharpen my pencil." So he handed over this small knife, and he was sharpening his pencil so that he could write and keep track of stats. And so when he completed that, he turned and went to hand the knife back, past his friend to the other friend, when this foul ball came and hit his hand and the knife, which went into the stomach of this young guy. So, ow, right? But his friends were like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And he was like, I'm fine. It's not a big deal. Well, as they sat there and continued to watch the game, unfortunately, he bled, and more was coming out. And by the time they realized that it was quite a bit of blood, it was too much. So he must have hit some major organ or artery inside, and he bled to death right there at the game. And I don't know what you say about that, except for, you hear weird stories like this sometimes. And I know personally that when I was a young kid, I remember my dad, I would do stupid things. And I remember my dad before saying, "Hey, are you thinking? What are you doing?" To him, he was thinking, you're about to do something that could cause a problem. And I thought to myself at the time as a kid, what are you talking about? I'm just doing what I do, But this is a weird thing. Who would think that taking your eye off that situation, the ball coming down and hitting him, would end his life? What a terrible way. You go out for a ball game and you don't come home. Crazy.
Yeah, I think, this is one thing, too, that I think where movies differ a lot and they're not reality. Like, a movie, and I could be wrong, I've never been stabbed, to be honest. So, a movie would make it seem like a very dramatic situation, getting stabbed. But I think sometimes you can get hurt and not know that it's a serious injury, right? A film would potentially show a bad guy running towards you, getting shot once and falling on the ground when someone's defending themselves. In reality, from what I've been told by friends in law enforcement and have been in situations like that, it's like you can shoot once or twice and that person still keeps coming, right? The adrenaline's going, stuff like that. So, not saying this is the same situation, but it's, you hear this story and you're like, well, how did you not know something was wrong? But, again, reality is a little different. Like, you could have, like you said, easily hit some artery or hit something. It hurt, but you're thinking it's no big deal, and it ends up being much more serious than you thought.
Yeah, for sure. So this next example is a little bit different, but also strange, and the person passes away. This person's name is Dick Werthiem, and I hope I said that right. This happened in September 10th, 1983. It was actually during a very popular sporting event, the U.S. Open tennis match. Now, during this match, people are doing what they always do, which is watch these, and you don't expect anything strange to happen. There was this, one of the top athletes on the male side was Stefan Edberg, and he actually it was during his match where he was about to serve the ball, and I don't remember because I didn't actually see it, but apparently the serve went in a weird direction. And this this individual, Dick Werthiem, was actually a line judge. So he was out there on the court or on the edges of the court being a referee. And the ball served hit him in the groin. And when it hit him in the groin, most guys, especially a ball maybe coming 80, 90 miles an hour or more, how would you react? It's going to be painful. It's going to throw you back.
Yep. He
goes backwards. His chair flips back. He falls and hits his head on the ground. This is what's going on. And he was in trouble. I mean, he had a head injury. But who in the world would think at that point that this would result in a death? Now, this guy, Dick, was he had some health issues in his 30s. I think he had a heart attack at one point. But he was only 40 years old, and he was out there, being a line judge in a tennis match. And he never, ever came out of this, and he wound up passing away. So, once again, you just don't know what will be the cause sometimes. So we should live every moment and be alert. Like, maybe he did see the ball coming. Maybe he didn't. But who knows?
Yeah, just something random can end a life. You just never know. When it's your time to go, it's your time to go.
Yeah, exactly. So what would be the word of advice to people? Try to pay attention, I guess. You never know when it's your time. But sometimes what's going to happen is going to happen. And there's nothing you can do about it. So...
And it's,
any comments about that? What was your favorite?
I don't want to make a joke about this, but I have to say this settles the debate between women and men that getting punched in the boob is the same as getting punched in the nuts. Because obviously, again, not to make fun of this gentleman because it's horrible what happened. I'm sure he had a family and stuff like that, but it's like, you get hit. You get hit in the right spot, and I think the pain, and it could be a different spot, but the pain from that causes you to react in a way that, like if I were to fall, I'd probably try to hold my head or cradle or whatever, something like that. But I think most people would as you try to fall. But to experience something with intense pain might cause you to disregard those natural reactions, and then something like this happens, right? Like maybe he didn't do that. I don't know, but to fall back with nothing stopping you. That sucks.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Went out for a normal day to enjoy a game, and
a tennis game too. Like I can understand getting hurt at a more serious game, but if it can happen in tennis, it can happen anywhere.
Yeah. So, as we went over these 4 topics, what was your did you like any of them better than the other? What did you thought? Did you hear something you wouldn't have expected?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's the weird diseases probably the most fascinating to me because especially something like accents, is the human mind is such a mystery, that to think that some little thing, and it's a perfect balance, I should say too. Everything in the human body is perfectly balanced to make us function the way that we function. So it's interesting to me to see that maybe one little thing is just a micron, just a tiny, just goes out of balance by just a brief blip, something that's almost immeasurable, and it causes something like an accent, or not even an accent, but a change of speech pattern that happens to sound like an accent. And I don't know. To me, it just shows how, again, perfectly balanced a human body is to function the way that it is, which is really cool, I think, and it makes it makes life a little more special, I think, a little more, we shouldn't take advantage of it. It's a little more rare. But I mean, all of these last cases, same thing. But the diseases, that part fascinated me a little bit to see that there could be something like that would, change the way you speak to where you can still speak, but it's just the function of speak is one that is not of the culture that you're at. So anyway, I thought that was the most fascinating one.
Yeah, I think anytime, I really do find the medical stuff, the diseases and the conditions, the most interesting as well to me. It never ceases to surprise me, the amazing, intricate, imbalanced system that our body is, like you were saying. And I think that's why sometimes people, they're sick and they work through it, and then all of a sudden when they start to go, sometimes people just go quickly. And I think because all the checks and balances start to fail, and then like dominoes, it just falls. So, these are examples, some of these diseases, where some little thing is off, or some genetic material or something is not quite the way it should be, and then you get some strange result. So it's crazy.
Yeah. But on the flip side, like you said, like some of the checks and balances start failing, but then on the flip side, you hear the story of people who just decide that they're going to get better, and they're able to kind of start doing that, right? So, I mean, it's fascinating.
It is. And I hope to talk about some of that in future episodes, because I think that's amazing too. Well, okay, so it's been great. I had fun doing this episode with you, Anthony, and then we can get together for another one soon. And for all of you out there, just keep in mind always that there's a lot of strange and unexpected out there. Keep your mind, your ears, and your heart open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.